Hello everybody, my name's Dave, thanks for joining me, and today what we're going to do is talk about camping, types of stoves, what is good gas and what gas doesn't work. A new subject, camping? How dare I? Yes, there are some stoves that work poorly because of the gas they use, but we'll get to them in a minute. Let's look at gases and stoves in general, plus any other types of stove. Types of gas. There are two main types of gas used for stoves: propane and butane. This is propane, this is butane. Now I'm reading from the paper here, so you'll have to bear with me a second. You can get petrol stoves, but never carry any petrol. There are also solid fuel stoves made from hexamine. They're like a fold-out pressed steel. They burn hexamine box. We were issued these in the RAF, but they're next to useless in most situations. They don't get very hot. They will boil water, but just. So we will be discounting petrol and solid fuel stoves here. Whilst petrol is a liquid and it uses vapor to ignite, it is not a gas. The Americans call a liquid a gas, but that's short for gasoline, and besides this, they're dumb. It is the combustion engine that creates the petrol vapors and not the actual petrol itself. Petrol does vent, it does gas off, and that's what burns. It is the petrol vapor that burns. But petrol boils at plus 30 to plus 200 degrees C, which is far too warm for it to be a gas. So let's concentrate on propane and butane. Gas containers. Most gases are flammable, start out as a liquid, and as liquid propane and liquid butane are no different. What happens is there is a boiling point where the liquid boils, which with propane is minus 42 degrees centigrade, and with butane is minus 2 degrees centigrade. The liquid boils, changes its state into a gas, so anything warmer than that, this gas will vent off, create gas in the cylinder then pressurizes, with the gas being formed, and it is forced out of the little hole at the top into the burner. And anybody who can fix an engine knows how a gas stove works. And we inject oxygen in the air to increase the flame intensity. So the gas is under pressure, escapes at the nozzle where it is ignited, in this case when it burns the gas. What dictates where the gas freezes at the nozzles is the boiling point. If anything is related to the liquid gets below the temperatures listed, it will not boil, and therefore it will not change to a gas and burn. Whilst we may see close to minus 2, we never see, thankfully, minus 42. The process will occur provided there is nothing in the way of the nozzle, such as the liquid or the cylinder that has frozen. Therefore, it is imperative that the gas bottle is stored in the upright position at all times. So we're talking about like this and not like this. Yeah? Sometimes you see them at an angle like this, but that's okay. As long as the liquid is below the level of the nozzle, it's fine. And that is one reason why you should never overfill bottles. We use the tap where the gas can be turned on or off or closed off when not required. So on these bottles there's no tap. On these bottles there is. This is a propane bottle. This is a very small propane bottle, but you can see there's a tap, and you can probably hear the gas escaping. Where on this, if you take the brass cap off, all you'll see is a place where the plunger goes. Okay, butane is normally sold in a set of 4 or 6 cans. Throwaway type like this, like aerosols. You get them in 4s or 6s. I saw 4 yesterday for $11. I've seen 4 on Bunnings website for $6, nearly half the price. So you get different standards of gas, but it's all the same gas. This is Gasmate. That's probably why it's a little bit more expensive. But once these are exhausted, so if I take this red cap off, all you'll see is like a nozzle, like a spray nozzle. Once they're exhausted, you can't refill them, so you just throw them in the bin. You can puncture them if you like, stop them being pressurized, but you just throw them in the bin. Although it probably says on the tin, do not puncture. I think I would cut them open if I was throwing them away, just so they can't be reused. Propane can come in several size propane containers, such as the 5 kilogram or 20 pound bottle, which is one of these here. This is no, this is 3.7 kilograms. And this one's 8.5 kilograms. So that one's 8.5 kilograms. That one's 4.7 kilograms or 3.7 kilograms. Watch out, Bertie. And this little wee one is 1.25 kilograms. Now they've all got the same valve on them, or similar valves. This little one doesn't have, but the two bigger ones do. And they're the same type of valve that you use on your barbecue. Get the name of it now, but anyway. Transporting gas for camping. In Queensland it states, transporting gas cylinders in enclosed vehicles can be a safety risk and is regulated by law. When transporting gas cylinders, you must not carry a gas cylinder greater than 9 kilograms. So not much bigger than that one there, the big one. In an enclosed vehicle. That's the key word there. You can transport up to 2 gas cylinders up to a total of 9 kilograms or less at a time. So you can put 2 4.5s in or 2 3.7s or whatever you want. As long as it doesn't exceed 9 kilograms or 2 cylinders. Secure each cylinder upright in the vehicle, preferably in the boot, with a plug firmly fitted into the Presto light ball valve. So that is a Presto light valve, a pole valve. And you can get little screwing caps for them, for the hole. I haven't got any, unfortunately. But they call them a POL valve, and it's the Presto light it used to stand for. You may carry a 9 kilogram cylinder to a retailer for exchange. You may carry a 3 kilogram and a 9 kilogram cylinder for a retailer for refilling. Don't know what the difference between exchange and refilling is, but there you go. This is very similar to the advice given in almost every state or territory in Australia. As a general rule, to be safe, you should carry all gas on the outside of your vehicle. In my opinion, if you are carrying a big gas bottle just for cooking like that one, you're using the wrong system. These half kilogram bottles, much easier and lighter to carry. They can be stored in many places and they can be restricted to a smaller amount or if weight or space reductions are required. Whereas a 9 kilogram cylinder is a 9 kilogram cylinder, and that, as they say, is that. 9 kilograms or bust. I carry those half kilogram bottles and I keep them in my tailpack at the top. So any car that hits it is lower down. The tailpack is up here, right up here on the spare wheel, at the top of the spare wheel, so only trucks are going to damage it. You could carry a dual tailpack if you wanted, or whatever you need to do. Obtaining gas or refills. Propane. You can exchange the bigger ones and the smaller one for containers at most Shell servos for around $20 to $35. Or you can purchase a new £1 or half kilogram propane container for about $10.50 in Bunnings. Now I have seen them upwards of $18, so just be careful where you go. Butane. This is butane. It says on the front butane. Isobutane fuel mix. This normally comes in a throwaway can container. In most camping stores, Bunnings for $6 for 4, and some servers around $8 to $11 for 4. There's a reason why I think you shouldn't bother with butane though. What I'm about to say will not be in favour of these stove manufacturers. I've got one of the stoves here. Let me just get that out. We'll have a look at that in a second. There we go. That's a Spinifex butane stove. So there's a gas cylinder in there. You slot the gas in like this. Let me show you. Right, so you've got your little sticky up nozzle there that fits into here. It goes into there. And then that little clip there drops down into that gap at the top. Can you see the little gap in the shoulder at the top there? That's where that slots in. It stops it turning and locates it in place. And then with it turned off, you'll lower this lever down. This lever on the front. You push it down, and if you watch the cylinder, it engages. You then shut the door and you can turn it on and ignite it. There you go. Now what you can do with these is disconnect them and the flame will go out. And these don't leak. So you can do that. And the reason you can do that is because of the type of cap. But that comes at a cost, and that price is this freezes up. They may not like it, but in the immortal words of Mr. Scott of Star Trek fame, you can't change the laws of physics, Jim. And that's the truth of it. Yes, it is cheap, $6 for 4 of these, 880 grams or 220 grams each. And it's fine on warm days and when the sun comes up, but it doesn't work that well on cooler days, even with the sun up. Butane stoves normally look like that, but in Europe they use like little blue cylinders about this round and about that tall, and they can clip on or they can engage into the stove. And then you screw the head down and it cuts into the cylinder and then it seals it. And then you've got a tap on the top that turns it on and off. I've used those in the past. They've been absolutely fine. Except you can't take the cylinder off once you've engaged it. That's it. Otherwise you're going to lose all your gas out. They're called camping gas. They were invented in France and they're used throughout Europe. You don't see this spin effects type stove in Europe. Well, you didn't when I was there anyway. The European type made by camping gas tends to have a fiercer flame than the Australian type due to the hole where the gas escapes does not generally freeze, mainly due to the mix of butane and propane gases. Aussie butanes do not have this mix, so they freeze. So you can remove this type at any time, but there's a trade-off for this convenience. You strike the flame, it lights. Does it boil the water? Yes, it heats up the water, but normally, especially on colder mornings when you really need a hot drink, the butane freezes in the nozzle, stops vaporizing, and then the flame dies to nothing. And water does not boil. So the only solution is to warm up the entire canister, including the gas. That takes ages, by the way. Or when you sat waiting for it, it takes ages. It's like watching a kettle boil, or not. What's a good solution? Well, to get another cylinder out, if you had 2 cylinders, you can put one in while one's warming up. But if it's your last cylinder, you've blown it. It's not a very good solution. Propane, on the other hand, is still affected by temperature, but it does not generally freeze on normal cold mornings. It needs to be minus 188 degrees centigrade for the propane gas to freeze, and the boiling point is below minus 42 degrees, which is way colder than we need to be concerned about here in Australia. So as long as the temperature is above minus 42, it will evaporate and it will burn. But with butane, it's minus 2. It has to be above minus 2. Well, you know how easy it is to get to minus 2 because the gas cools down the metal and then the nozzle freezes. As you can see, I've got my helper with me today. There's only me and him here and my daughter who's in bed. She's 25, so she's bound to be in bed. Hey, that's mine, not yours. Never mind chewing my piece of paper up. Right. So butane will not freeze until minus 140 degrees centigrade. However, it stops venting off at minus 2. So your butane cylinder might not work as effectively in cold weather and low temperatures, make it difficult to produce gas vapor. I've used 3 canisters, switching them out all the time just to boil a kettle once. And that is why I always use propane. It just works. For your information, propane will increase in pressure due to temperature. Now, this is something I found out to my cost. I had to do a bit of research on this. Not to my cost, but to a problem I had. Now, all pressures here are approximate, but at 0 degrees centigrade, it is at 4 bar, or 60 psi. At 20 degrees centigrade, propane is at 9 bar, or 130 psi. At 30 degrees, it is 11 bar, and at 40 degrees, it is 18 bar, or 261 pressure psi gauge. Types of stove. We'll be coming back to the pressures. In many shapes and sizes, from stoves that burn petrol to fold-out throwaway hexamine solid fuel stoves like these. Hexamine is known as hexamethylene tetramine and is also known as tetrazodarmantane. It's a white crystalline compound used in various applications, including as a fuel tablet for camping stoves, a hardening agent for plastics and resins, and a medical antiseptic for urinary tract infections. It is produced by combining formaldehyde and ammonia and is known for its high energy density when burned. Because the substance is so highly soluble in water it comes in a wax cardboard carton for camping to keep it from getting wet. It burns with similar intensity as a firelighter. It can be used for firelighting. It was discovered in 1859 by the Russian chemist Alexander Mikhailovich Butlerov. I've already shown you a butane stove, so let's move on to propane. As I mentioned before, I have several propane stoves, from single burners to multi-burners. So I have 2 companion stoves. This is a single burner. I'll show you this one. Take it out of its case like so. You put this on here on this, and then you attach this pipe to here, making sure there's an O-ring in, and you screw it on. The gas cylinder attaches to there. I'll show you attaching. This is empty, this cylinder, by the way. That's why it has this cap on it. So I'm going to refill it. You screw it on like this. I'll tighten it up just in case. There is a bit of gas in it, but not much. This is the problem. This gas cylinder like this can fall off the table, takes the stove, takes everything that's on the gas stove with it. I've got a double burner here with a hot plate, and they are my main go-to camping stoves. I also carry about 4 or 5 half-kilogram propane gas canisters. The issue with these stoves is the location of the gas cylinder, not because of its proximity to the flame. I've never actually seen this heating up, even with a pan on the top. But because it falls off the table, it takes the stove with it and everything you were cooking. So if you had a small table like so, all it would take would be for it to fall off the back like that, and then it would take the whole cooker with it. You have to be very, very careful. I purchased a gas devil hose. Located the canister safely on the ground. So basically I connected the hose to the stove and the canister to the ground. And then that was much safer because there's nothing to fall off. However, when the temperature got up in the daytime, the hose popped. It had a safe working pressure of 250 psi. It turned out after a phone call to Gas Devil that they had not factored in the increase in pressure that the propane experiences when subject to temperature increases. See the previous chart. I received a full refund. Please ensure that any pipes purchased exceed at least 350 psi to cover you for 40 degrees temperatures. When there are more of us, I take a bigger stove with me. I have a Coleman 3 burner. And here it is here in this bag. Now it looks huge, but it's not. It's just a stove. It comes with a hot plate. I can open it up and show you if you want me to. And there it is there. 3 burners. It's got a central burner, it's got 2 outer burners. But it still takes the half-kilogram bottles. The half-kilogram bottles are convenient, to say the least. However, this Coleman stove consumes 1 of those gas canisters per day, whereas both of the companion stoves will last a whole camping trip, 3 or 4 days on 1 canister each. But the Coleman is cooking for many more people, and it has 3 burners, and they're much more fierce. I also have 2 much older and larger stoves. They're not larger than the Coleman, but the problem with them is they're gas bottle fed. You know, I was given this one, and I've never actually looked inside it. That goes onto the smaller bottle. I have another one like this one. It's got the bigger connections like you have on a barbecue. This all brings me on to another point. Refilling cylinders, these cylinders. Refilling throwaway cylinders. Now, there's nothing you can do with the butane ones, but these you can refill, if you're so inclined. I mean, you don't have to, you can just buy new ones. Let me just put this away. You turn that upside down, you put the pipe in there, and then you put that on top and it goes back in the bag. Wherever the bag is. I don't know where I've put the bag now. There it is down there. So you can see why these are my go-to stoves, because they've got little bags, they're a lot smaller. They're not too bad. And that's the double burner there. So you can see that both of these are... So how do we fill these? Well, they're done by weight. So we can see the weight on here of them when they're full somewhere, but we know that they're 468 grams when they're full. Now that won't weigh 468 grams now. Not quite half a kilogram, but not far off. So what you do is you need a set of scales. You need a connecting pipe for there and a connecting pipe for the... I lost the brass cap off the top. What did I do with it? Oh, there it is. Bertie's got it. Let me all of that, thank you. So I'm just putting the brass cap back on. It just denotes it's empty. So you put the cylinder on a set of scales, and the difference between 468 kilograms and what it is, which is probably about 200 grams, is the amount you need to put in. So let's say it's 200 grams, so we'll say 268 grams to fill it up. You connect the two bottles together. Now what you have to do is you have to invert the propane gas, because you want the liquid, not the gas. When you put the hose on, and if this is on the scale, which is going to have to be, the weight of the hose is going to bear down on it. So you should weigh that first, see how much you're putting in. Reset your scales, put the exact amount in you need, because if you go over the top when you put it at an angle like that, it's going to be too much. 30. You get your cylinder, you put it on the scales, you weigh it, how much you're going to put in it. You get your hose, you connect it to the cylinder, you connect it to the big bottle, you open the big bottle, then you get ready to open the little bottle, or whichever has the tap. Whichever end has the tap, you open it up slowly. You start increasing the weight, because the pressure will push the liquid down, or the gravity will, into that cylinder. Once it gets to the set weight, you turn it off, you disconnect the pipe. You connect the hose from the larger cylinder to the half kilogram cylinder container to be filled. Because you're filling a liquid, not a gas, you will need to invert the larger bottle so only liquid comes out. Once it is inverted, open the larger bottle tap and then slowly open the smaller bottle. Whichever taps you've got, you open slowly. And watching the scale, you fill it up to the full amount. Never overfill these cylinders, because if you tip it up at an angle and it covers the hole, you won't get any gas. Then close off both valves to remove the hose. If you've got two valves. If you've only got one valve, then close off the top valve, remove the top part of the hose, open up the valve again, let the liquid drain into the cylinder, close off the hose. So now, what have you got? You've got a non-refillable bottle that's been refilled. So a 2.2 kilogram bottle will fill 4 of those. However, that's 3.7, so that will fill 6.5. So 7 bottles. The half kilogram bottle is a non-return valve. Okay, there's a non-return valve here, relief valve, or whatever. That's nothing to do with the filling process. Now, if you find that you're going to throw these away, you can take that valve out if you wish, discard it. That means there's no pressure in there and nobody's going to get blown up. Now, when propane leaks, propane's heavier than air, so it'll fill all the little holes and little ridges with propane. And if it's not a windy day, it won't blow away. So bear in mind, if you have a propane leak, it'll sit in the lowest places. So the recycling of canisters, so any of them. If you just prefer to only renew the canisters, if you wish, you can remove the relief valve when they're empty to ensure that for a safe disposal they are not pressurized. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye now.